When we left off on page 103, Isabel and Ash were trudging their way through the thick jungle. They're going the tougher way to try and take a shortcut. And they're trying to get to a shelter before it is nighttime. And Isabel is getting sicker. And Ash realizes that it is the coronavirus, and that's the unburnt gas smell that he can smell on her. And as they're going through the jungle, an animal is chasing them. We're going to skip 103 to page 110, right there at the top. Whoops, sorry about that. There we go. Behind them, the noise grew louder, like an approaching freight train forcing its way through the forest. Ash could hear the foliage being rammed aside, the snap and crack of the branches breaking. Quick! It was so close now, something huge and unstoppable. We can't! Isabel shouted in frustration. The jungle is too thick. She stopped and pulled the rifle from over her shoulder, pointing it into the forest behind them. The crashing stopped. Ash came to a halt and moved his head to listen. He sniffed the air, smelling something musty and unpleasant. Is it gone? Isabel kept the rifle raised. Ash turned to look at her. He heard something, no more than 50 feet away, an animal-like grunt. There was a pause, then the crashing began again. It's coming! Let's get the heck out of here! But Isabel didn't move. She stayed as she was, rifle aimed into the forest as the thundering and smashing grew louder and louder. She stood her ground, even when the foliage split on the other side of the clearing, and a dreadful creature burst into the opening. It strained its front legs and came to a shuddering stop. Slavering and grunting, the giant boar must have weighed at least 3 times as much as a grown man. On all fours, it was taller than Ash, but it had reared onto its hind legs. If it had reared onto its hind legs, it would have been 7 feet tall. Its wide, hunched shoulders were packed hard with solid muscle, supporting a huge, pointed head that tapered to a black nose as big as a dinner plate. A line of bristles stood up on the ridge of its sloping back, and it had short, powerful legs to support its massive bulk. Tusks came out of either side of its lower jaw, curved, razor-sharp blades more than a foot long. Ash knew that one thrust from those yellow and dirty weapons would split him down the middle. Just so you know, in case you're not sure, a boar is a type of wild pig, and obviously this one is enormous. The beast stood there with thick saliva hanging from its jaws, its breathing slow and heavy, its chest expanding and relaxing. The smell that enveloped it was an intoxicating mix of rotting meat, sour milk, and death. Shoot it, Ash whispered. Almost exactly as he said it, Isabel fired a warning shot. Crack! The sudden noise was deafening in the confines of the close trees. The sound reverberated in Ash's head, and at the other side of the small clearing, the beast flinched as Isabel's bullet struck the ground between its front legs. Apart from the slight twitch, though, there was no indication that the creature was bothered. It didn't make a sound. It didn't move forward or backwards. It simply stood where it was, head lowered, with its small dark eyes fixed on them. Only its nose moved, crinkling and twitching. Kill it! Isabel quickly worked the bolt on her rifle, loading another cartridge into the chamber, and spent one flick out of the breech and sailed through the air in front of Ash. It caught the light, glittering like gold, then dropped to the floor and disappeared beneath the leaves. She steadied the rifle, taking aim once more between the boar's front legs. Crack! The second bullet struck the ground in the same place as the first, but this time the animal didn't even flinch. Shoot it! Ash whispered. Just kill it! Isabel reloaded the rifle with a quick movement of the bolt, But as she looked down the barrel, preparing to put the next bullet into the creature's head, Ash realized that it was not looking at them, it was looking at him. Its small black marble-like eyes were fixed on him. And as Ash returned the stare, the boar shifted its gaze. It looked once to its left, then to the right, as if it didn't know what to do. It snorted and lowered its head, then turned and trotted back into the forest. Ash stared at the empty space where the monster had been. Beside him, Isabel remained motionless, with the rifle still aimed into the trees. "It was you," she said. "It stopped because of you." Ash continued to look at the small grooves in the ground where the boar had skidded to a halt. "You missed." "They don't see good, but it saw you. It smelled you." "You missed," Ash said again, still sharing. "Yes, to scare it away. We don't kill things unless—" "You should have killed it." "We don't kill anything. The animals on Isla Negra are like nowhere else. Very rare, very important," she frowned. "Like in the lab, you saw those monkeys there, right? But Papa tells me they only study them, never kill." Ash blinked and looked at her. "You've seen one of those things before?" "Si, 3 times in the jungle, and one time there was one in the biosphere, for study." "That's why there's an electric fence." Ash was starting to understand now. To keep them out, because they're dangerous. They don't often come close. "What is wrong with this place?" Ash kicked the ferns at his feet, then shook his head and took a deep breath to calm himself. "Look, next time you shoot it, okay? Promise me. I thought it was going to kill us." "Usually it works with the animals. A gunshot usually scares them." "Promise me." "Okay, I promise." Isabel held up her hand. "But it saw you and stopped. Why did it do that? And then it walked away. What did you do?" "I didn't do anything." Isabel clicked on the safety and lowered the rifle. "Don't look at me like that," Ash said. "Like what?" "Like I'm weird or something." "You are weird." Isabel stepped closer and put a hand on his arm. She squeezed it once and tried to smile. "But you are still my friend. So why didn't you tell me the full story?" "I didn't want to scare you." "Is there something else out there that I should be scared of?" "Yes." Isabel slung the rifle over her shoulder. "Lots of things. Come on, Thorn will have heard the shots." All right, so we're going to skip to page 117. They're still trekking through the forest, and it starts to rain very, very hard, which is good because at least it's covering up their tracks. Oh, that's the end of that chapter, so I'm going to go ahead and stop it. Go answer the questions, and if you need help with something, email me.